please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share the videos and clips that you see on YouTube with your mates or anyone that you think is interested in football or Arsenal or United supporter. You never know, it might be something they're interested in watching. And for those who listen on Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcasting platforms, please follow. Give us a 5-star review if you can. All of that stuff helps. We've been seeing a particular uptick in engagement recently, so we really appreciate it. And try and keep that going so we can get better engagement and help the algorithms give other people the opportunity to watch and listen. So much appreciated. Let's get into the transfer segment then of the pod that we do every week now. We'll start off with United. It's going to be a pretty quick one, to be honest, John, but I'll get your opinion on it as well. We've been linked with the same players that we've been linked with pretty much for the last month or two. Ligt at centre-back, Ugarte in centre midfield, and obviously in the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been heavily linked with Mazraoui at right-back. On the rumours out, Bissaka out. Lindelof has been heavily linked with the move as well recently as well, and then McTominay as well has been probably the most linked centre midfielder as well in the last week or so. It's very obvious from all of the big transfer ITK dons, the Fabrizios, the Ornsteins, all of the regional guys in France and Germany and all this lot, that United are agree in personal terms with all 3 of these players, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Ugarte. But we can't go in there and agree terms with the clubs because we're operating on a 1 out, 1 in policy now for the rest of our transfer business, which, to be honest, I think makes complete sense because we've got a bloated squad and there's a bunch of players that we need to just get out. So I would, I think a lot of greedy United fans and the flip-floppy type ones that just want us to buy, transfer obsessed fans, they're just going to say, no, we just want to buy players. We need to get them in. It doesn't matter about selling. But I think we'll both agree, right? Because I think Arsenal are in a similar predicament now going forward as well. Selling one and buying one is the way that I'm happy with us to operate. We just need to find a way to sweeten deals to make sure that our players go. Because it seems like, especially on the United side, a lot of the players that we're trying to flog are pretty happy to stay because they're probably on big salaries. Obviously, playing for United is quite prestigious. They get a lot of other benefits sponsor-wise and social media-wise that they might not get at West Ham, Fenerbahce, Fulham. No offense to those teams, right? But I think that's the reality of, a big super club and how the football industry operates. So I think that's the big issue that we're having. And I think in that circumstance, I'm very much like, if we have to sweeten some deals to get these players out, pay them a bit of their contract that they're maybe missing out if there's a big gap between, the buying club's contract offer and their existing offers, I'm willing to do it. Right? Like kind of Football Manager style, you offer some compensation to sweeten the deal to get them out the door. I'd be fine with us doing that because I think it's imperative to get those players out and get these players in so that we can start bedding them in as soon as possible. I don't want us to go down to transfer deadline day, breaking news, Jim White, yellow ties and all that kind of stuff, seeing us active on the last day. But I'm happy with the links. Again, I'll be happy if we got Ugarte, happy if we got De Ligt, happy if we got Mazraoui. I'm not going to be one of these revisionism dons that I'm seeing on Twitter moaning about us selling Wan-Bissaka. Yes, Wan-Bissaka is very good one-on-one. There's pretty much no one like him, or there's very few players that play like him. But let's be honest, he's been at fault for a lot of goals positionally. When people say he's very good defensively, I've always argued that he's good one-on-one. Positionally, he gives away a lot of goals. And then going forward, even though he's definitely improved, he's not going to be a Luke Shaw on the right. He's not going to be a player that you want at fullback offering something going forward, right? He's not a Ben White who's been able to show that they can do a lot going forward. So with this style, getting a Mazraoui in makes sense to me. Or getting a Dumfries or someone like that who we've also been linked with makes sense to me. So I'm not going to be, someone who moans about selling Wan-Bissaka. But yeah, what do you make, Johns, first on the United ones? And do you kind of agree with my acceptance of this policy?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good policy. It's the smartest business decision to make because if you don't try and get them out now, you'll never get them out, right? I think you see over time, they're just going to run their contract down, and then you'll just get rid of them at the end, right? When they've already kind of milked you of all of the cash that they signed up for. So from my point of view, you've got to do it now for a lot of these players, and the sooner you can get them out, the better. Even ignoring the people coming in, you're going to be in a much better position when you can get out some of the deadwood that you really don't see a future for at Man United. So people like McTominay and Lindelof, particularly, there's no future for them at Man United. It's best to just get them out as soon as possible. And if you were to just go about and just go and buy all the players you wanted, the motivation from your team, from your club, from your business to get rid of players like Lindelof and McTominay afterwards, and from even the fan base, is going to be much lower, right? Because you've already got the players you want. You don't really care anymore, right? So from my point of view, it's get rid of those players ASAP as quickly as you can, and then see if you can get pieces here and here and here. And if you can't get them in, then just play the youngsters in the meantime, right? And obviously that's how you prioritize who comes in and who goes out, right? Based off of what cover you've got in that position. So I think personally it's a great policy to have. I think unless you've got a squad that's just really small and you need to add people on top of it, then fair enough, you don't necessarily need to have this one in, one out policy. But I genuinely think that most of the best clubs in the world tend to have something like this, right? Even the Barcelonas, who are terribly run, when they buy someone, at this point, they're forced to get rid of somebody else, right? Man City also nowadays, they buy someone, they're kind of forced to get rid of somebody else, or at least create a path for somebody else to leave. So I think it's the best way to operate. I think Arsenal are having to operate in a similar way. And I would argue that despite some of the quality of your squad, you do have a decently sized squad. So at this point, to just add more people on top of it, you're going to end up like Chelsea, where you haven't even got enough space in your dressing room for all the people you've got. So I think it makes sense. Out of all of the players, I think the only one I'd prioritize lowest is the Wan-Bissaka Mazraoui one. I think the Ligt and Ugarte, getting rid of Lindelof and McTominay, should be your higher priorities, and getting De Ligt or whoever, De Ligt alternative plus Ugarte should be the top of your list. Whereas, Mazraoui, in my opinion, would be like a deadline day or closer to the end of the transfer window. If you can't get rid of Wan-Bissaka, or if you can't, or you have a good opportunity to get Mazraoui in, then maybe try that one. Because I know what you said about Wan-Bissaka, but I think he was much better last season. And I know everyone always says this, right? But if I'm a Man United fan, I'd be least unhappy if Wan-Bissaka out of the three of those players is the one that I end up having to keep, right? If I'm stuck with McTominay or stuck with Lindelof, I'm going to be much more unhappy than if I'm stuck with Wan-Bissaka at the end of the transfer window.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Priority-wise, I would flip it and say getting a midfielder and getting, now maybe because of the Euro injury, getting a centre-back is high up on the list. And the Wan-Bissaka Mazraoui deal is one that I could do after those. But yeah, for whatever reason, it looks like it's the reverse, and it looks like those two deals will most likely happen first. Maybe that's because the Wan-Bissaka.
It could be about the availability, like who actually wants these players. It's like what I talked about before with Nketiah, right? Yeah. Like maybe somebody actually has interest in Wan-Bissaka and they don't really have interest in McTominay. Yeah. So that's the other, I guess, dimension to take into account here.
No, I think that's definitely what's at play. I think West Ham have been pushing for right back all season, or off season. Sorry, they were going for Mazraoui and almost had a deal done. So I think that's probably, it's more based on which deal is the most progressed. And that's the reason why that's most likely to happen sooner. It's not a case of we prioritize this signing over the other. It's just which deal is most likely to happen.